This is going to be a video about chess openings and how you should approach them. It does not matter what your level is, you will absolutely learn something from this video if you're beginner, intermediate, or advanced. I've split it into 3 parts. In the first part, we'll talk about different openings like theoretical and setup-based ones, and what things like theory and novelty mean. In the second part, we are going to talk about databases. How do you use an openings database? How do you break down the branches? How do you prepare for opponents, and so on? And in the third part, we're going to look at how to analyze your own games. You can feel free to jump around. I've put timestamps on the video player. Let's go. Okay, what is the opening? In the opening stage of the game, we obviously develop our pieces and we give the game its unique flair. It means that sometimes we already on the first move decide, are we playing the king's pawn or the queen's pawn? Theory in openings is a position that's already been explored by grandmasters, by computers. It's in a database somewhere. It is recorded. A novelty then is the first move out of theory. Novelties can be good and bad. If you hang a queen, it's bad. You make a new move, new idea, could be good. And then people start to kind of flock in that direction. The opening for many beginners, let's say after e4, and then black, plays e5, it's a time to just develop your pieces safely and make sure that everybody's getting a turn. And that's good. That is a very good way to start learning chess, to keep your pieces safe, follow the rules. But then you need to start realizing that chess is a competitive game. I mean, for some it's war, and you're already making decisions immediately, move by move, of what your opponent is doing. So for example, against e5, we can play very traditional, knight f3, knight c6, both targeting this pawn, and then play 4 knights, right? And then develop our bishop, because this is what the golden rules of chess say. 2 knights, 2 bishops, fight for the center. But you can also play something like f4, which is called the King's Gambit. And a gambit in chess is when you sacrifice a pawn or 2 in the beginning and you get all your pieces out faster and you get better control of the center because that's where the game flows through. This weakens the king, but now black has doubled pawns and you're gonna get 2 pawns in the center, and a gambit, there's many types of gambits, can throw your opponent off because they're not very popular, right? You also can play one of my favorites, the Vienna, which is non-traditional. This is not something that people learn. And then there's like things like cheesing, like going for the scholar's mate, the wayward queen attack. And these are things that you have to know what to do against. The difference in openings between theory and setup is that in a theory-based opening, when you play e4, you cannot play the same way against everything that black does. What does that mean? So if black plays a Sicilian defense, for example, you can't really play the same way as you would against the Caro-Kann, like the Caro-Kann defense, right? So you've got to know different things against different things. It's the best way to put it. But a setup-based opening is like, for example, the London, where after d4, it really doesn't matter what black plays, as long as they don't target this pawn with like, a wing attack. If they play d5, you'll play bishop to f4. If they play knight f6, you'll play e3. And you'll go for a setup that pretty much always resembles this. I'll say this. The little pyramid structure, the 2 knights like this, the bishop and this bishop. Black has a lot of different things that they can do, and you'll kind of always go for this. And it's good because it's easy to learn as a beginner. You don't really need to think about what black is doing. But then you're not really always putting pressure on black, right? If that makes sense. Like, what I always tell London players is that if they're going to play d4, they gotta look, what is black doing? Knight f6, bishop f4, they go for g6. Now the g6 lines here are called King's Indian positions, when the bishop goes to g7 and d6 and castles, right? That's called the King's Indian. There are ways for London players to mix it up, to not go the same way, and maybe put their knight out here. Remember last time they put the knight on d2, and then I'm gonna put my queen there and castle the other way, which is non-standard. But you're observing what your opponent is doing on a move-by-move basis, and then you are adapting to it. Kind of the advanced beginners and intermediate players need to start understanding that they can't just pre-move the opening. It's also about what the opponent is doing. They need weapons. They need a way to challenge each thing that their opponent plays. Okay? And you could study openings in videos, books, courses. I have many openings courses, and I get this question all the time. How do I study? Like, what do I do? How do I look at databases? How do I know what's the best thing? Well, I mean, hopefully that was a pretty good introduction because we are about to jump in to database study, okay? I've pulled up the chess.com database. Now, I personally, at the master level, have always used a program called ChessBase, right? ChessBase is very expensive. It's the most expensive program that exists for like master level players, and it's not very pretty. It looks like this. This is ChessBase. It's got all these things down here, and I will show you how to read them in a second. Now, if you want to use chess.com, and obviously, Lichess has their own database, and they oftentimes compile what's known as master games and even like amateur games, games that are 1600, 1800, 2000 rating. Of course, it's better to learn from masters, right? So when we look at the database, we see the first move, second move. So let's play e4, and then we see Sicilian has been played 500,000 times, and most databases will have some sort of percentages. 34% black wins, 37% white wins, 29% is a draw. The further you go down, let's say we go for a Vienna, and then we go for a Vienna Gambit. Look how little games are remaining, right? Because we've gone deeper and deeper, and the way you study this is you really should choose the one that's played the most or second most and is significant. I mean, if a move has been played 2 times in a position that's been reached 1,400 times, it's probably not the best move. But you would combine this with a computer evaluation, which I will show you all afterward. Now, ChessBase is a little bit more extensive, and as I said, Lichess has one of their own, but you gotta be careful, because things that are being played a lot at 1600 level will not always be played a lot at the advanced level. So if we look at one of Eric Rosen's favorite openings, the Stafford Gambit, look how few games this gets featured in, right? That's because the truth is, masters kind of know how to deal with it a little bit better, at least in longer games. In Blitz and Bullet, not really. I mean, you've seen Eric's streams. He beats many, many good players, but in Classical, the Stafford Gambit at master level is rarely seen. But you at home should be doing things practically. Just because Grandmasters don't play this in the World Championship doesn't mean it won't work for you. So always remember that simple fact. Now, for the next portion of this database study, I was gonna pull up some subscribers who volunteered to be in this video, and I'm doing this for a reason, because I want to show you the power of playing things that are not considered the top move, like the second most popular move, for example. So here's an example. I pulled up Steven0396. His most popular move that he plays, according to chess.com Explorer feature, is the move e4. He plays it a lot. And he gets e5 450 times. Then he plays knight f3, and then knight c6 is the most popular. But look at how many times he's faced the Stafford Gambit. Knight f6, knight e5, and knight c6. Just 20 games. Of how many games of e4, e5? 450, right? So it shows you the power of taking someone out of what they're comfortable in into a position that they might not know. So it's good to play these things that are non-standard, right? Because if we just follow his most popular move every single time, looks like he plays the Scotch. I'll give you another example in the Scotch. Take. There's a tricky move here, queen h4. How many times has he faced it? Once. Queen h4 is not a great move, according to computer. But it's a very tricky move in the Scotch, and he's only faced it 1 time ever according to his database, right? And he blundered. He actually blundered queen takes e4 check, which is the whole point. So it shows you the value, right, of playing these tricks. And if we go to the Masters database, let's go back to this Masters database and pull up that same position, all right, just to show you kind of the effect. Look at queen h4 here. It's the 5th most popular move according to the Masters database, right? It does get played. It does get played, according to the Masters database, but this gentleman had never faced it ever before, which is quite interesting. And if you play the Caro-Kann against e4, then c6, right? How many games of c6 has he had? 5th most, 41 out of like 700, right? So again, Caro-Kann is a great thing that I recommend for many players against e4, rather than just playing standard stuff with e5. That's, in my opinion, what I think is the best. I think Gambits, Caro-Kann is the way to go, challenging the opponent early on in the game. Now, another person, this person is 1500, kind of pinged Jake. So, Jake is he's a long time supporter of the stream. He's also enjoyed my YouTube content since I only had like 200 subscribers, so I gotta feature him. He always used to play e5 against e4, over 1,100 games. If you play the Vienna against Jake, look at where that takes you, 82 out of 1,000 games. And then against knight f6, 1 Vienna gambit, 3 Vienna gambits ever. And to his credit, he did play 2 wins, but one of them, this is a bad move, but he still won the game. So Vienna gambit takes a person who's played a position 1,000 times into 3 times ever. That's huge. That is the benefit of playing things that are not just copying your opponent, to actually learning something specific like a Caro-Kann defense or a Vienna system. So that's one thing that I wanted to pull up. Another person, this one's interesting because this person is 1900, this next person, GM 500. I've played this person many times, and this person plays d4. I wanted to look at it from White's perspective. This person plays d4 a lot. It's their most popular move, almost 2,000 games. Now, look at this. If you play the Dutch defense against this person, that takes you down 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 35 games out of nearly 2,000 that this person has to deal with the Dutch defense. Another idea for some of you, Dutch defense. Go check it out, right? Dutch defense is a great defense. I mean, it's wonderful, and you see that it can take even the strongest of players out of positions that they've seen. One more, the Budapest Gambit. Look, c4, 400 games here. How many games of e5, which is the Budapest Gambit? 25. 25 out of like 500 or 600 games. That is how you would apply the usage of an openings database, right? To scan against certain players, or just explore positions that are not so theoretical. You know, things that I recommend, for example, in my Caro-Kann course, not in my course with the white pieces. So just one thing that I wanted to show. In my course for the white pieces, against the Caro-Kann, I recommend the advanced Caro-Kann, which is very trendy now, second most popular move. And against bishop f5, I recommend not knight f3, which has 7,500 games and probably even more, but the second most popular move, right, which has only 3,000. And now when players go h6, right, we go g4, and now we're down to about 200-300 games out of a position which has been reached how many thousands of times, right? So we go lower and lower, and this position will appear later. In the next part of this video, we are going to show how to analyze the games you play. Okay, the games you yourself play, and how to learn from those games and how to incorporate the use of a computer to analyze games after they're done. We'll go all the way back to the beginning, and for this next portion, we will go back and start to analyze games that I played against subscribers. So we'll start with this one, okay? This was a game I played actually in the most recent video I uploaded on YouTube, which is How to Win at Chess. It's a playlist I started to play 10-minute games against my subscribers, and I was black. I was playing against a 1,059 rated player, and he played the Vienna Gambit against me. I played d5, which is the main line. He took, I took, he went here, I took, he took. So far, so good. This is all known. And here I played the move c5, which I believe is the most popular move in this position. And here my opponent played d4, which is not correct. And a few moves later, actually ended up losing his bishop by virtue of a fork. So let's say you have a game like this with white. Let's say you play this with white, you blunder a piece. How do you learn from a game like this, okay? Well, here you go. We're gonna have to go back to our handy dandy database, right? And we say, well, what happened? You know, I was playing my Vienna Gambit. What did I do wrong? How did it go so wrong for me? So far, so good. Take. And here my opponent played c5, right? Oh, I mean, I played a move that's basically not in the database at all. And if we go to the even more robust chess-based database, right? Whatever it is that you are using, I'll pull up the chess-based database just for instructional purposes. Watch this. So look, take, right? And black plays c5, which is one of the main lines. Look at this. How many games of d4 in this position? Like 13? And the score is 34%, which means that 34% of the time white wins, and 66% or 65.4% of the time it is black who is winning, and there are no GM games. If we sort the database by white, who's got the higher rating with the white pieces, not a single GM. All 2,000, 2,100, and some of these people down here who last played in 1889. So you know we're not in very good territory. So then what you do is you go back and you incorporate engine analysis, and you say, all right, well, that wasn't right? That wasn't good. I have to do better than that. Another example that I can give in the Vienna Gambit is, just if we flip it to White's perspective real quick on this big board, if they play something that's not in your analysis at all, like for example in this position, people will sometimes play the move knight to g5, which attacks the queen. And here people just freak out. They go, I don't know what to do. So now I'm going to kind of incorporate the last layer of study that I wanted to demonstrate, which is the computer. See this thing that I've popped up on the screen? You have to use the computer after the game, not before. And what does it say? The top line? It says the move that gives plus 1.3 advantage, which is a pawn and 3/10 of a pawn, is queen takes d5. Queen takes d5. Because you've blundered the pawn. Knight g5 is not a theoretical move, it's a novelty, and it's not a good one because you just lose this pawn. That is how you learn openings, right? If there's only one move in a position in an opening that's good, you still have to find it, because otherwise, like for example, it's like walking through fire, right? If you can walk through fire but get across, okay, that's fine. But if you walk through fire and get burned all over the place, you're not gonna do it again, right? You're not gonna, right? And here, White is just much better. So that is how you incorporate the computer into your opening study. You go move by move. Is this something I know? Is this bad? Is this good? What does the computer say? Well, a final example here against Jordan 2197. Jordan, sub of mine, also on Twitch, we played, and I played a London, and he kind of Londoned my London, and I know here that there's a critical move, which is c4, right? Which is c4, e6, and queen b3. This is kind of the point. In London positions, when your opponent moves the bishop off this, there is c4 and queen b3, and you go for this. And he played queen to b6, okay? Queen b6 is a very standard move. Now here, if you don't know your theory, you will not know that the most critical and challenging move for the black position is the move c5. Say, why? Why is that the case? Like, why is that the most popular and challenging move that exists? Because if you trade the queens, you've now given me a brand new open file. And in doing that, you've also given me a b pawn, which I can push to chip away at your position, supported by my bishop. Now, again, just one final scan. If we go to our handy-dandy database, right, we will take a look here, and we will see that c4, look at the bottom left of your screen. c4 scores 62%, right? c4, e6, queen b3, queen b6, c5. Look at this move. In this position, c5, 43 games, 70%. After c5, 70%. Ha, that's a nice number. That is a nice percentage. That's a nice percentage. And then we go like this, right? So from here, we have to develop an advantage, and that is how the game goes. Like this is how openings are studied. Whatever database on whatever website or whatever program you're using, I'm showing you ChessBase. It's for profit, it's a paid program. Obviously, we all know that the Lichess database, it's a free one, but it also is for 16, 18, 2000, and it's tough to filter all of this. It's tough to kind of balance the desire to see whatever while your peers are playing, and also not all databases cover moves for people who are like 1200. They are a bit rating discriminatory, I hate to tell you. If you're a beginner, don't just play standard developing stuff. Look to practice. Look to practice certain things that are maybe the second and third most theoretical. Incorporate a gambit with white or with black into your openings, because gambits are very tricky and people aren't ready for them. If you're an intermediate player, add a layer to the opening that you play, right? Try to get ahead of the theory, for example. So what does that mean? Adding a layer to your opening means if you play e4 and they play Caro-Kann, go play that h4 line I just talked about in this video. Add that if you're playing something else and it's not working. Find what in your own database is causing you to struggle.